Welcome back to CBS4K, and this is Total War Warhammer 3. We'll do a little bit of dev chat and intern patches. And what's next? So we're just going to look at that, and then, you know, I'm going to talk over a bit. But I'm going to pause it, talk about it, you know, as you do in these sort of videos. But, before I begin, I'd like to say thank you for stopping by. If you could hit the like button, subscribe button, both will be appreciated. Let's begin.
Hi everyone, I'm Steve from the Total War community team, and I'm once again sitting down with some of the guys from the Warhammer development team to chat a little bit more about what's coming up in the future. Just a quick disclaimer, this video is being recorded before the release of patch 5.2. So even though we'll be talking about those patches and the kind of future of those patches, we won't be addressing any of your feedback or responses to that from now, as we wouldn't have seen that, because unfortunately we can't see into the future as much as we wish we could. So with that said, let's jump in.
As you know, guys noticed that there's like no labels on the water bottles. They take those off, by the way. They have to, because they don't want to be advertising nothing. Also, they got nice little figurines here. Like, experts in the lore will tell you what those are. I'm not an expert,
introductions.
Though, so.
Rich and Sean, people have met you before, but do you want to give us a quick introduction as to who you are and what you do?
I'm the game director for the Total War Warhammer series. I look after the various DLCs, hotfixes, patches and the like with these fine gentlemen.
And Sean, how about you?
Yeah, I'm the lead designer on the next project coming up now. So I'm focused primarily on keeping the team focused and bringing it together ready for the end of this year.
Awesome. And we also have Mitch with us today, who's heading up the project to bring the kind of smaller updates and refreshes to the game in the interim patches in between the DLCs, like 5.2, which you would have just got your hands on. Mitch, do you want to give us a quick introduction to who you are, what you do, and also maybe your history with the Warhammer series?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Mitch. Some people will remember me.
Hey, Mitch.
Thinking way back to Beastmen is where I joined the project.
Really?
Warhammer were rich in the team. And I worked on every DLC, all the way up to Immortal Empires. Some of the big notes in there were Tomb Kings and Vampire Coast. A couple of the ones that I led, some of my favorites. I then took a small hiatus after Immortal Empires, but now I'm back. And like you said, I'm going to be working on the patches and the updates, and just really having a think how we can bring all of the old content a bit more up to date.
Awesome. Thanks, Mitch, and welcome back.
Thank you.
So let's jump into a couple of questions about the next year.
I do like the fact that they're putting a lot of effort into building this game up, because I feel like Warhammer 3 was something they just pushed towards, and they didn't really, how do I say this, they didn't really finish major aspects of the gameplay, and now they're trying to catch up to where they should have been at the release, because I honestly think they released Warhammer 3 a little bit too early.
We'll see.
They should have let it cook in the oven a little bit longer. And dropped a couple more DLCs in the interim. They could still drop.
So in the last video, we spoke a bit about the new Legendary Lords that were coming. Gave some little bits of juicy information there. Is there any update on how things are going?
They didn't have to do
it. Things are going really well. We are way into our production pipeline now. So you'll have seen from the last video some of the creatures and characters coming to life with some of the animations.
I didn't check out the last video because I was busy with other stuff, but I'm checking out this one now.
They're working on lots of our audio content as well, so how these things are going to sound, how we're developing our designs, which I'm sure Sean will talk a little bit about later. As we push forward in rounding out the development process, where we're going to iterate and then do some bug fixing and the like before we get to release. So looking really good.
Sean, how are things going from your end? What are you doing at the moment?
Well, we're actually almost at like a playtesting stage now, so we've got it all together. It's a beautiful masterpiece that is filled with problems. So we'll playtest it, we'll iron out those kinks, and we'll fix all the bugs. So yeah, we're just shifting into that phase now, which is for us the most important phase. So we'll be really relying on our QA team to give us lots of feedback, and we'll spend a lot of time testing it ourselves. But as we shift into iteration,
updates that come out.
Looks like an amazing idea right now, we'll play and go, oh, actually, maybe we could shift it this way or that way, and that's where like the real magic comes together, and that's what we've learned over the years, that this is like the most crucial stage to get like the best product. So we are there now, and we are not wasting any time with what we have.
So a word that you guys both mentioned there is iteration. And for those who don't know what that is, what is that, and what is that stage when you're in game development?
So we have like a few key stages for us. So we have the pre-production stage, which is where we decide what we're making. We figured out who the characters are, what's their goal, what's the pillars to lean towards. After pre-production, we know what we're making. We shift into production where we start producing it. We make it, and during that stage, we just kind of have like the first draft. So once it all comes together, we then play test that and we go, okay, so what was good, what was bad, what maybe it's like completely the wrong direction. We think we've missed the mark. As we hit into iteration, that's where we take a stop, we address it, we think, okay, we need to turn left here or go right there, and then we have a good few weeks of doing that, and then at the end of that, we then shift towards bug fixing so that you can polish the product ready for release.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely where we sprinkled a little bit of pixie dust and magic into it, and just really polish it out.
So let's look at these new legendary lords. Let's look at Gorbad for the first one. Is there any extra stuff based, what you told us before? Any new stuff that you can talk about today regarding his playstyle mechanics? Anything about him?
Yeah, go a little bit more detail. So last time we talked about how he was, this tactician that brings all flavors of the orcs and goblins.
This is the meat part of the I might check that out. Anyway, this is the meat part of the video right here where they talk about the various aspects of the gameplay that's going to be added. That other stuff was technical stuff. Some of you probably weren't paying attention to that, but suffice to say they're taking their time with this update. They're making crucial fixes and patches, and they're basically fine-tuning it. They're shaving down the edges, if you will, of their work.
Roster together. And we've dug into that a bit further, and we've come up with a name in progress, but at the plan, which is a feature around Gorbad experimenting with what different units in the roster can he pull together, and if those form a plan in his head, he can then create a unique strategy around them. So it might be, send out some goblins in front of the archers and they can pick up the arrows, and it's like, well, now you've got a way to regenerate your ammunition during the battle because he's got arrow catchers, go in and get it. Or maybe it's a more campaign-focused thing of like, what if I bring loads of wolf riders? Then
real talk, I think getting greenskins in this update was a good idea. It's been a while since we had them, but at the same time, we don't really need an update for them. But adding a few things to their toolkit is always a plus because, let's be honest, greenskins are one of the most liked factions in all of Warhammer. That's in both fantasy and the 40k. So it behooves them to pick on and focus in on the greenskins. Like everyone else has like detractors about their faction, but the greenskins are pretty much beloved by everyone.
I can do better raiding. So it's all ideas around experiment with your army, what units you bring. And that can have both campaign and battle interactions to make him quite different.
So you've mentioned units. Are there any that you can tell us about today?
Yeah, I think the unit I most want to talk about is the characters, the Savage Orc Shaman. So to go back to how we're always looking at the game and trying to find where it makes sense. For us, we thought we have Warzag in game right now. We've got lots of Savage Orc tribes in game, but none of them are being actually led by Savage Orcs, which they should be. So if we bring in the Savage Orc Shaman, we can right that wrong, and we can bring in a new bit of gameplay, but also refresh some old experiences and make it feel a bit more authentic to the Warhammer world. It's weird having a Savage Orc tribe led by an orc.
A regular orc, yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah, we want to give you that flavour.
Yeah.
We had that in the past with Shadows of Change and didn't quite get that right there with Muggle Stankia. So, yeah, absolutely want to make sure that you can role play out the armies that you want to build. And yeah, Sean was like dead set on getting this.
Yeah, the Shadows of Change was probably the biggest wake-up call for this entire Warhammer project, because, man, have I never seen a more bitterly hated DLC than Shadows of Change.
This character in for you.
Yeah, when we brought in the Savage Orc, it did make us take another look at Wurzag. They're like, well, if we're giving him another character, maybe we should take a look at what he's up to. So we've actually moved him as well. So we've moved him from the Badlands down to the Southland jungles to pay homage to his origin in his 8th edition lore. And we're working like a little nod to his connection with Gork and Mork and the Savage Orc tribe. So yeah, a new fresh experience there, something we're looking to do in other places as well.
Awesome.
So we want to see your best Wurzag dance.
The time will come, I'm sure.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, the Warzag dance could. I'm curious what they mean by that. They could mean like a number of things.
I'm sure if there's enough demand for it. So what about Goldfag? What's coming down that line with the Ogre Kingdoms? Is there more stuff that you can tell us about now?
Yeah, I can tell you some more stuff about that. You're pulling it all out.
I'm very heavily aiming at you today, Sean.
I'm in the crosshairs.
Yes, because you're heading this all up. You know, you've got all the juicy details.
Yeah, I'll make sure I do a good job.
deets.
So Goldfag, I mentioned earlier, he is the mercenary guy. So we have to make him a mercenary, right? Like we have to create the first proper mercenary faction in.
Are we working towards Dogs of War? That's what many people are saying, or asking for. Are we working to Dogs of War?
Warhammer 3. So we've got a brand new feature set now where you can take on Goldfag's contracts and you actually work for another faction. So if I create a scenario here,
sorry,
we obviously had to deliver a mercenary experience. So for the first time in Warhammer 3, we're trying to create a faction that plays like a mercenary. So you will work for other factions. So in his new feature, Goldfag's contracts, you can, let's say Carl Franz is having some trouble with Vlad, and he offers you a job. You can take on all his wars and go, okay, I'll work for you, Carl. You beat up Vlad and maybe Dreicher's causing trouble, or Kemmler as well. If you do enough good job for him, beat up his enemies, maybe gift some of the settlements to him, you can fulfill your contract, and Carl will give you a nice big juicy payday at the end of that. So yeah, and we've even tried to keep it like, you're a neutral party, you're just a mercenary. So a lot of the diplomacy that comes with beating up Vlad will actually get passed on to Carl. Like, you know, he's the one that hired you. It's not Goldfag's fault that he's doing a good job.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's a good interview. It's a good interview for his next job with Vlad. Yeah, like, what are you talking about, man? I'm not your enemy. It's Carl.
So at the end of that contract, maybe Vlad says,
I actually kind of like that idea. That's a good idea.
could you work for me instead and take on Carl next? So we've treated this new experience where he does kind of roam the world, taking on the jobs. And
by the way, I didn't pre-watch this, by the way. I just want you all to know that.
Anyone he fancies.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just that good.
I'm going to throw another one at you, Sean. I don't know if you can guess what I'm going to ask you.
Do you want some more content? You want a crumb of content? Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. Are we going to do this again?
We're going to do it again.
Little tiny bit of content about Khorne and Skulltaker. Yeah?
Sure.
That's enough.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to ask about another ogre piece of content, which I could say we're doing the Yetis, but I guess we'll go straight into the Skulltaker if you want.
Sorry, what? Yetis?
Yeah, the Yetis, but we'll move on from that. Yeah.
Tell us, you can cut that. Tell us a bit about Yeti.
They didn't cut that.
The Yetis are like a monstrous infantry unit for the ogre roster. They are like quite ice imbued and come from the deep recesses of the mountains in the ogre kingdoms, and to give them a bit of a difference from Gorges, who are quite aggressive, charging in. The Yetis actually come with like a passive debuff, an aura of frost, I think is our working title there. So you want to mix them into your roster in places to debuff the enemy so that your ogre bulls can really hit them hard on the charge.
Are they really big or just big?
Just big.
Just big, okay. Just one.
Yeah, big, furry.
Yeah.
As a Yeti should be.
Yeah.
Cool. Are they soft and fluffy?
What is the conversation? What is this?
Okay, let's have a look at Khorne.
Let's move past it. Come on.
Skulltaker.
Yes.
What new info can you give us?
Well, I think last time I told you that he's a champion hunter. That's his probably gameplay role there. So again, we've dialed into that on the campaign side as well. With Skulltaker, he's all about hunting down champions, taking their skulls. And for us, we're trying to capture that with him when he defeats characters in campaign.
That is activating my tryptophobia a little bit.
Will claim a portion of their strength, some of their champion essence, which he can then use to imbue his Cloak of Skulls. And the whole idea of the feature is seek out powerful characters, defeat them, claim some of their strength, and empower yourself even further, so that you can become the ultimate Khorne champion and the ultimate champion of the Warhammer world.
So it's literally a process of the more people you kill, the stronger you are.
Yeah, and if anyone starts to look pretty tough, well, you just kill them, right? And then you take their strength, and now you're even tougher. Exactly.
And it's just exponential until you're champion of everything.
Yeah, until you stood at the top of the peak alone.
Yeah, he's got skulls everywhere. I was looking at the art the other day, what our character artists have done, and even his sword, on the blade, there are skulls etched all the way up there. The guy is fully stocked.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Units. Are there any new units or anything like that you can talk about for Khorne for this DLC?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about what we've got coming for them. And I guess touching back on one of the other questions that you asked about how we produce and package up the content, Khorne's got something slightly different. Not too different, but slightly different in that we've been looking back in all the books and the materials that were set by Games Workshop. And what we're trying to do, obviously, is create parity across all three different strands of the DLC. Where you've got your Legendary Lord and Legendary Hero and so on. But with Khorne, we came to look at what other options were available for some of the generic characters. They didn't quite have as much stuff on offer now as maybe what some of the other factions do, as we've been exhausting it through the various different DLCs and products. So Khorne's already got, I think, three kind of heroes in already, like the cultists and the like. So there was nothing really more to be added there. We do have a new generic lord though coming in, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the future. But to fill that gap, what we're doing with Khorne is going to give you 2 legendary heroes rather than just the one that you've seen in past experiences. So greenskins and ogres, don't worry, they still fit the same form as Stones Decay, but Khorne, you're going to get 2 legendary heroes, and they've got 2 pretty cool ones, or I think they are. So first up, we've got Skylar Anthrogrim, which I think is one that you've all been talking about and expecting to see. We do have that brute of a Chaos Spawn making his appearance with his massive, ape-like stature and fists. He was a past Norscan chieftain, wasn't he?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got all this pent-up rage and fury, he just wants to unleash it all. And then the other character, which maybe you're not expecting, but we're equally excited about doing, is Scar Bloodwrath. Now, Scar Bloodwrath is not an 8th edition character per se. He comes from the end times. So it made sense when we looked at Khorne, how we can get the best and most exciting characters and units into the pack, and to have him. And it will make sense when we disclose some more of the content coming as well, why we chose him. But I think
are you doing end times?
Very brutal, very vicious. Yeah, very much strong followers of Khorne. So they'll be fun to play around with.
You mentioned a lot about kind of reference materials and things like that you've got, like the books and stuff from Games Workshop. So what do you use as your reference point?
Well, Mitch is really good. One for digging through and turning over every stone and an idea.
No, absolutely, yeah. I think the start of every project is, for me and I'm sure many others, just taking the army book of whatever you're working on and just reading through it. And then you'll pull out from the army books, loads of notes related to, the characters, the units, and especially the campaign as well. You're always kind of looking for something unique, something interesting that you can pull out from the army book that you can then translate into gameplay. Obviously, it's a little bit more directly translatable with the battle stuff, but in campaign, you're always looking for something just a little bit, unique, something that you can really.
Well, that's all interesting.
Like something really small sometimes, and you can just kind of latch onto and turn it maybe into something quite interesting.
Because there's a lot of material on it, and you can find literally tons of it. Well, we're pretty much halfway through it. But yeah, I think they're making some good points here. They're making some good ideas being battered around here by them. I'm excited for a lot of it, mostly for the greenskins, but I'm actually kind of excited for the mercenary stuff with the ogre kingdoms, because they're also supposed to play like mercenaries from what I gathered from their lore, but they don't feel like mercenaries in the game. They feel. And then in the contracts you're getting as Ogre Kingdoms don't really pay that much, so there's that. But then again, if you pay them too much, you make Ogre Kingdom players a little bit too overpowered. But I haven't really played the Ogre Kingdom, so they might be making it more enticing to play as the Ogre King if they do make you a little bit overpowered, depending on the contract they take on. So there's a lot of factors in
yeah,
here.
You're always reading through the army books, and there's also lots of other books as well, and other magazines and various source material.
You have a ton of source
we'll just
material
read
to
through
work with.
throughout the
That
entire
is true.
project to try and just really immerse yourself in whatever
Well-
it is you're working on at the time.
So is there like a secret library somewhere in the studio that I've not been to? Where all
kind
this
of.
material is
No.
just like this treasure
No,
trove.
it's not a secret.
right, yeah, no, it's
Oh,
not.
really? Oh, okay. You just take it
behind
home.
it?
Sounds
don't
like a
you?
nice place to
Take it
work.
home.
In my flat, yeah.
Awesome, cool, thanks Mitch. Well, we've spoken quite a lot about the DLC now, and looking forward to sharing more info in the near future.
Yeah.
Let's have a chat with you now, Mitch, and talk about what you've been doing with the smaller updates and the kind of interim patches and things like that, like 5.2 that we've just seen released. What's your approach to this? So how do you identify what you're going to work on, or what you want to add, or what you want to refresh and freshen
I'm
up?
actually curious about
Yeah,
this.
so I think, as players know, there is a lot that we want to freshen up in the game, and we do quite a bit
Yes,
of
we
that,
all know that.
in the DLCs. But I think what we want to start doing more of is taking the opportunity to do that with the patches.
That's a good
kind of the
idea.
initiative we're
That will
starting
help
now
you
to
have a
kind
lot
of make our
with
patches a
more.
bit bigger, a bit fuller. And in terms of what goes into them, we really want to be player-led. So yeah, 5.2 obviously
Well,
came with a
nice
couple of
to say
things. It
that,
came
but
with
can
some
you
new
commit to
things,
that?
and it came with some fixes. And that's something I think we want to keep going forward. So we always want to try and add something new in the patches, something that you can say, hey, I'm going to come back and I'm going to try that new thing out. And you don't necessarily have to wait for a DLC to have like a new experience.
Yeah.
So that's always something
That's
I think
a
we're
nice
going to try and aim for. And then on the point of tackling, fixing up some old content. There's a lot of it. Obviously, we've got a massive amount of content now. So yeah, we are going to be listening to players a lot. We've got a great team here that takes all of the feedback from the community and then feeds it to the devs like us. We'll kind of filter through that. We won't necessarily always have the capability to do exactly what people are asking for. So, for example, if people want us to do things like add new lords in these updates, that's probably not going to be something we're going to be able to do.
I
We'll
understand
focus maybe
that.
a little
I think
bit
we all
more
understand that.
on things like campaign features,
Campaign features is,
fixing up
to
old
me, the
features,
most
doing some
important.
reworks,
And doing
maybe
some
smaller
rework.
reworks. Maybe if some of the patches
Some of the older
will do bigger
features
reworks,
can
maybe
be
like a race
taken away,
rework if we
so-
can. There's going to be quite a bit of variance in these patches in
rebuilt to
terms
something
of
else.
both the scope of them, how big they are, and the kind of content we do in them. And yeah, again, we're going to be player-led. Just because
Like
we're not
Nurgle, I
going to do
played
in
them
these updates
recently.
new
They
lords
need a
and
little few
characters,
reworks to get them back
that doesn't
up to
mean
snuff.
that for old content there aren't going to be any new lords or characters.
Talking about these things that you're reworking and working on, are you able to tell us anything about what's going to be coming next down the line in the next patch?
I'm
So
okay
that's a
with
good
them adding
question.
like
As you
smaller
noted at the
units.
start, we were recording this before 5.2.
Like them adding goblins with sword and shield and orcs with spears was a good idea. We didn't need a whole DLC with them adding that. Those are like necessary additions to their army roster, and the fact that the idea of them putting a DLC would bother me, because you should have that as like a standard, because that's basically whatever faction has. They have spear units. They have sword and shield units. Like, that's not really a complicated sort of idea. You understand what I mean? Like,
comes out. So probably what's going to be happening right now, in our time, not in the viewers'
In the
time,
past.
in the past, is we're going to be waiting to see the reception of 5.2. What would be really awesome is to start getting more feedback from players. What is it do they want to see? What content do they want us to go back and fix and update? And if they have even kind of, like I said, we want to do new stuff. So if they've got idea for new little features that they want to see in the game, can be quality of life features, or it can be something a little bit more mechanical like the deeps. Then we can look
The
to do
deeps was a
that.
good
So at the
idea.
moment, I will mention.
I
a
haven't
couple
played
things
them
that are
yet,
on the
but
list.
I think the deeps was a good idea.
But the big caveat, obviously, is that plans might change. So what we're thinking of doing at some point will be a Bretonia rework.
Really?
I think we have looked at them in the past.
The Bretonians have not been
They've
touched
still
since they
got
dropped.
a few things that I think we wanna fix and update with them. Most notably, Rick
They did a
talked
few
about it quite
things
a lot,
here and there,
is the
but-
Green Knight. He's on our list for sure.
Okay,
along with
that's
some
good.
some other feature fixes for Bretonia. So they'll be coming, I think, at some point. Also Kislev, I'll mention them. We've seen a lot of feedback. People want us to take a look at Kislev and kind of update them a little bit. And then we've also got some other smaller plans. So I think we've got a big rebalance of the ancillary system and a bunch of new ancillaries that we're looking to do in the near future. The Chaos Invasion, that's also something that we've seen a lot of requests for, which is definitely on our list to kind of bring back in some form. Obviously, it's a little bit different now how we can kind of implement it in Warhammer 3 because all the big bad guys are already on the map. But I think there's some ideas we've got there. So yeah, that's a couple of things just to name, just to give you a little taste. But yeah, like I said, we'll be waiting for feedback. And we really do want to be player-led, so it will, plans might change depending on what it is people want.
As Mitch said, we're gonna try and inject variety of content into these updates. Hopefully, you saw recently 5.2 we added a couple of Orc and Goblin units. There's other ideas about weapon variants, stuff like that. But that's the sort of thing that we're aiming for at the moment. Whereas Ed Grimm, I know people are after him. He'd be better suited to a DLC in the future. So, yeah, please don't expect those in the mind.
No, I don't think most people understand.
So this feedback that you're acting on from the community, whereabouts are you kind of compiling that from? Which channels that we have are you using for that?
Yeah, so we've got a fantastic player experience team here. Like I said, they kind of give us devs like really great feedback directly from players. So you can go on our official forums, our official Discord, and to be honest, most other social media, we'll find it eventually. And yeah, it's maybe not always obvious, but I can promise you we do get all of the feedback from players, and it is massively helpful in shaping, not only, I guess, what I do in the updates, but just everything we do in general. So go there, leave all your feedback, it'll reach us, and then we can act on it.
Awesome. Yeah, feedback.
We do a lot of reading.
I bet.
And I wanted to stress, if there was a faction maybe you were hoping Mitch might have mentioned but didn't, don't worry. We've got a bunch of other, plans and DLCs and things still to do. So we've got ideas around some of those other factions as well. They're very much on our radar.
Yeah, it's a good point that I guess it might not always be obvious kind of how we make the decisions we do.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to have a bunch of factions on your radar. I like the fact it's a good idea that they mentioned it, but they didn't say which ones. Give us a few surprises, but yeah, Bretonia and Kislev, they're kind of important. They're kind of big factions that you need to work, and they have like unique mechanics. And I don't think Bretonia is represented well in the game because I just have no interest in playing any Bretonia campaign. And not to detriment what they've done with Bretonia. It's just that Bretonia does not grab me as something interesting, even though it should, because I do like knights, I do like heroic characters, I do like very noble self-sacrificing, but the Bretonia knights do have a disdain for, I wouldn't say they like heroes, but they do have a disdain for the peasantry, and that's probably putting it mildly. And yeah, I do
in terms of what we
want
do
to play them more.
We know better than players what our plans are.
But their mechanics aren't that
so we might know
enticing to me.
For example, what we might do in future, and that then might mean we do something a little bit different for an update because we know in future this other piece of content people are going to want us to fix, or we've already got that on our kind of in our plans. Trust that, I guess, even if you're kind of giving feedback and not seeing it directly action straight away, it is reaching us and it's being seen. It's being seen. It's in the plan somewhere probably.
And that's all we've got time for today. So thanks to Rich, Mitch, and Sean for joining me again for this today. It's been a lot of fun. Been good chatting with you again. Do let us know your feedback on this format. We want to keep improving it for you. And don't forget to give us your ideas and suggestions for things you'd like to see reworks on from Mitch and the team. We'll make sure that feedback gets through to the right people. You can do that on the CA community forums or the Discord server. Or, of course, you can just get us on our Total War social media channels. We hope you're having fun with 5.2. And we're looking forward to giving you more information about patch 5.3 and the next DLC in the near future. So until that time rolls around, we'll say goodbye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
The full official video of this in the description in case you just want to watch it by yourselves without me talking over it or interjecting with my little thoughts and facts. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.